Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Dr. Dr Grossan, author of Stress, Anxiety, Your Cure is in the Mirror. Murray, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Nice to be here.
Are you ready to get started?
Yes, I am.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
It's very important to get a regular schedule. It's not a good idea to write in the morning one day, in the afternoon another day, and so on. Finding a time and sticking to it is very helpful. The other thing is it's very important to reduce any kind of stress activity when you're writing, whether it's yoga or whether it's looking in the mirror and seeing your face and jaw and shoulders relax. Whatever activity seems to reduce your stress, that will be a real help in writing effectively.
That is such a great piece of advice, too, because we've done 183 episodes on the show, and I believe you're actually the first guest I've had that's really talked about just focusing on not getting stressed about it, because there's always that pressure of those deadlines about wanting to get the books done and then making sure that they have an outlet, whether it's working out or, as you mentioned, yoga, some sort of technique they can do to help reduce that stress and anxiety. And that way it's going to really help in the creative process and, more importantly, getting the book done.
Yes, and by coincidence, in my book, we discuss all the different ways that work for reducing your stress chemistry.
Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
The hardest part is finding a publisher or an agent. Here you spend so much time writing the book and so on, and looking for an agent, looking for a publisher is really, sending out all these query letters. That's really time consuming, and this is one reason why many of us just simply go ahead and self-publish, because we feel the book would be of value to our audience.
And then with your book, did you self-publish your book, or did you go through a publisher?
No, I never even looked for a publisher. I simply self-published so that my own patients and the people who come to my website and so on can benefit from it.
Yeah, one of the nice.
And apparently,
sorry. Go ahead.
and apparently, judging from the letters I've received, some of them have benefited.
Yeah, I would agree completely. And what I was about to mention was one of the main things about doing it yourself is the fact that you can get it out there as soon as you want. You don't have to wait 6 months or a year or even a year and a half when you go through to the traditional publisher. Plus, you have complete creative control with what you want to do with the book, your vision, your cover, how you want to get it formatted. I mean, you get to have all that control. But as you say, the main catch is you are doing it yourself.
Well, unfortunately, I had a bad experience with a publisher. I received a very handsome advance salary. And then over a 4-year period, I couldn't get the damn thing published. Pardon my language, but you can imagine how I felt. 4 years later, the prescriptions and the medications all have changed. Finally, after 5 years, we did get the book published. And unfortunately, between the cover and all the other stuff, it wasn't as much as I would like.
So were you happy with going through the process yourself, doing it the second time?
Well, it seemed so much easier, and the benefits seemed to be as good. And as I say, being a doctor, your time is so limited.
Yeah.
And going straight to self-publishing, if you feel your book has value and so on, I think is a direction that is easy for me.
I agree completely. As a publisher myself, the time is limited. In fact, I actually, ironically enough, today I actually hired a new vice president for my company just because, as you mentioned, you only have so much time during the day, and you have to maximize the time that you have.
Right. Time is precious.
Agreed. Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you used in your book launch that worked well.
Well, there are a lot of social groups that you can contact. One of them is called Nextdoor, and that allows you to contact people in your area who might be interested in your book. Then the other thing is having, you might say, an advertisement for my book in my signature. That's also very helpful. And of course, urging people who have questions on my website, that here are some answers that can be helpful to you. So it's been interesting, my methodology, and certainly not the one that other people have to follow, but I think going locally as much as you can is very helpful.
Yeah, and I actually use the Nextdoor, the website and the app as well, and it definitely is a great way to make those local connections. And then you also mentioned the point about, so for your email signature, you mentioned you added the book link. Is that correct?
Yes. Whenever I sign, I do a lot of correspondence and so on. I invite people to see the book.
So what do you have
And
specifically below your signature? Do you have like, hey, check out my book here, or how do you actually present that call to
no,
action?
well, I have a website which is www.drgrossanslibrary.com, and I invite people to go there. And there I have my stress book and other books I've written on display and available to the readers.
Yeah, that's such a great idea because I can imagine you probably go through hundreds of emails a week at minimum, especially with your schedule.
That's correct. And fortunately, people visit there. They can contact me through that website. And I think that's worked out fairly well.
Yeah, those are great strategies, especially for continued sales as well. Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Well, my favorite book is actually Rudyard Kipling's The Man Who Would Be King, because this is a very important story. Here, these two soldiers were plundering, robbing, and so on and so forth. As long as they stuck to that, the public accepted them. But once one of the soldiers decided that he wanted to do good things, he wanted to help the people, he wanted to establish a dynasty, and do it in order to make himself better and make people better. As soon as he shifted into that with the best of intentions, everything crashed. I mean, as long as they were robbing and stealing, everything was okay. But once he tried to do good work, and this is a typical example of people who start out with really, really good intentions, but sometimes those good intentions can lead to disaster if they're not modified correctly. So that was a good lesson, I think.
Absolutely. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Okay, remember the song, You Can Do It, You Can Do It, You Can Do It If You Try. Well, I think that's a good, one of these things to have a plaque in front of you and have that rationale because sometimes you need a little stimulation to kick in, and I think the music and the words are certainly worthwhile.
Absolutely. Well, Murray, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
My email address is drgrossan @yahoo.com.
And then what was your website again?
drgrossan @yahoo.com. In other words, it's Dr. Grossan @yahoo.com.
Got you.
And of course, the library. Is www.drgrossanslibrary.com.
Excellent. Well, Murray, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Well, thank you, Brodie. Very nice talking to you. Bye now.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.